Longtime viewer and very active commenter Jennifer Holloway sent us an email recently. She wrote us saying,
I'm watching a Korean drama called The Greatest Marriage, in which a famous single mom is ostracized, and you learn that fathers tend to get full custody in divorce. Now I realize that Korean dramas are an exaggeration of reality, but how close to reality are these depictions of single mothers in Korea?
So this is going to be a very challenging TLDR topic for us for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think this is going to make a lot of viewers at home really angry when we talk about a lot of the stats that we found, and it's going to make you feel very frustrated.
Number two, a lot of the statistics that we're going to be telling you in this TLDR are incomplete because number one, there aren't a lot of studies about it, and number two, there are a whole lot of underreported and unrepresented cases simply because a lot of Korean mothers don't want to out themselves as single mothers because of the stigma that comes attached to it.
Now, I actually didn't realize there was a stigma attached to being divorced or a single mom until I actually had a friend who was indeed a single mom who was divorced, and she did not let me tell anybody this fact. I was really surprised that she was so adamant about, you cannot tell anybody, you can't let anybody know, this is a really big deal, this could like get rid of my job.
She was really scared when she was telling you this.
I was really surprised about this because in North America, if you are single or divorced, it's kind of normal to be like, oh, are you married? Like, oh no, I'm divorced, 2 kids. Like,
it's a lot more openly discussed in North America, while in Korea it's pretty taboo.
So I was really surprised at how hush-hush she wanted this to be, and I didn't really actually think a lot about it until recently. And now that we dig into a lot of the stats about single moms in Korea, I completely understand why.
So here's some things that we didn't know about. If you are a single mom, you can lose your job, you could lose your friends, and you could even be ostracized by your family for it.
So unwed motherhood is very closely associated with dishonoring your family name, which means people are going to want to detach themselves from you because they don't want to dishonor their siblings and the family name that comes with it.
There's also a lot of stigma and bullying that will happen to the child of a single mother as well.
So in the end, a lot of these women are forced to move out of their homes and are not supported by their family in any way whatsoever.
Even the Korean term single mom has a lot of negative connotations to it when it's said aloud, and it's really interesting that they use an English term for it instead.
Yeah, I wonder why there isn't like a Korean word for it. Maybe there is.
Now before we get too deep into this, I want to at least point you in the direction of KONFA, the Korean Unwed Mothers Families Association. Here is a very startling stat. According to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, in 2007, out of 100 pregnancies of unwed women in Korea, 96 of those pregnancies will end up in abortion. 4 out of those 100 will give birth, and out of those 4, 3 will be given up for adoption. Strangely though, even though abortions are so commonly practiced here in Korea, they have been illegal since 1995. And as we mentioned before, with the stigma of being a single mother, that's why so many people are going for the option of abortion instead.
I've also heard from people that, let's say it's like your son that actually gets a girl pregnant, maybe at a young age, family is more likely to go to the girl and try to like force her into getting an abortion. Even though technically the son's just going to detach himself, they'd rather her just get an abortion so there isn't actually any ties or problems whatsoever. So let's say you decide to keep your child. What kind of support system does the mother have regarding the father taking care of the baby?
So by law, fathers are required to pay child support, but there's something really bizarre about this law. Both the mother and the father have to file paperwork for this. So if a father doesn't want to file the paperwork, he doesn't have to obey the law. It's an optional, mandatory law, which totally blows my mind.
That's like saying you're being arrested to be sent to jail for murder, but first, fill this paperwork that says to go to prison. So you're like, is anyone going to enforce me to sign this paperwork? And you look around and no one's going to enforce you. So you just walk away from the paperwork and you don't go to jail. A lot of people don't do the paperwork.
So the blame isn't to be solely placed on fathers not wanting to file the paperwork. The mothers are also afraid of the stigma that comes with outing themselves as single mothers.
So outside of the father's support, what kind of support is there from the government? Well, there are 33 facilities in Korea for unwed and single Korean moms.
Yep. 33 out of the whole country of around 50 million people, only 33 facilities.
And there was a case study done where a single mom called all 33 facilities and only 2 of them returned her phone call.
It is very difficult to get any support from these facilities as well.
Now here's what's scary. A lot of them are actually run by adoption agencies or orphanages, which are basically trying to force the women into giving up their babies. So they might say to you, oh, you can stay here for 6 or 7 months, we're going to take care of you.
While you're pregnant, stay here. You could pretend that you're going on an overseas study or something like that.
Since your family is not taking care of you and you get kicked out of the house. But then they start to get into your mind about giving your baby up for adoption.
They put a lot of pressure on you for that.
Yeah, they get you to sign paperwork to give up your baby right away, even if you want to see your baby after you gave birth.
A lot of them very challenging.
Exactly. So in the end, here comes a really scary stat. 90% of children that are adopted from Korea come from single moms.
A lot of this has to come with the pressure of these agencies as well.
So it doesn't seem that they're really there to support the mother as like, you're a mother, you can do it, you're a single mom, here are some groups you can talk to. It's more like supporting them to give up their child.
Now, apart from these homes, there's not a lot of support from the government either. Unwed mothers with children who are under 12 years old and who earn less than 1.2 million won a month will get 70,000 won from the government, but they have to prove that they earn less than 1.2 million won a month. Here's what's really scary about this though. When the government factors in how much you earn or how much you're worth, they also factor in your possessions like your car, your home, and what's worse is that they will also factor in your family's earnings as well. So if you're not getting any support from your family, if they have jobs, then the government might decline that 70,000 won, which is like 70 bucks
a month.
A month. They might deny that even if your family doesn't support you at all.
But here's what's confusing about it. So they said that you have to live under the poverty level in order to get support from the government. But if your family disowns you, it still factors in as part of your earning, even though the family has done nothing to help you whatsoever.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Here's another shitty statistic. Parents in Korea who wind up adopting get 150,000 won support from the government. And they do not have to prove any kind of poverty whatsoever. They just flat out will get that. They will earn more than double what a single mother earns who tries to keep her own child for the people that wind up adopting instead.
So living under the poverty line, single mother, $70 a month if I'm lucky, adopts a child, could live at any level, gets $150 a month. So you can see with all these stats and all the situations with the government's lack of support, why women may not want to be a single mom and keep their kid in Korea, which is quite different than what we've seen in Canada and America. While no one thinks that a single mom is like an easy job, no one's like, oh, you're a single mom, it's easy. There are a lot of support groups like single moms on Facebook or like meetings or like people being like a proud and strong single mom.
It is something that you can openly discuss without being afraid of losing your job.
I also think there's a big stigma in at least Canada and USA about deadbeat dads.
Yes.
So there's this idea now that people will be like pissed off and angry. They'll accuse people of not taking care.
You'll go on Maury Povich and they'll out you that way. In Korea, that stigma doesn't exist. There isn't even a term for deadbeat dads here.
Yeah, I found the difference in Canada and America is that if you don't take care of your kid, people will like look down on the father for that, and like you have to pay child support. Well, it seems like in Korea, there's no guilt placed on them. It's actually
no stigma based on them. There's only stigma placed on the single mother herself.
It's considered that the single mother was promiscuous and like what was she doing, like sleeping around, but no one ever says like what was this dude doing not keeping his go-to up in his pants.
So I want to end off this TLDR on two notes. Number one, I know that there are going to be a lot of Korean ultra-nationalists who are going to say, this isn't true, your stats are wrong, so on and so forth. I want to give you the entire reading list of what we found. We're going to link that in the blog post. You can click on the link here and we'll put all the articles there so you can do some of the research yourself as well. And if all of those links are too much for you to research because you don't want to spend hours reading all upon it, I at least recommend that you look into Kumfa. It's kumfa.or.kr. They know a lot more about this than we do. At least look into them and try to offer them a little bit more support as well.
Now, on the other side of the coin, I don't want the comment section to turn into things from people being like, oh, this is typical of Korea, because unwed, single mothers, and stigmas that come with it happens all over the world, okay? So please don't act like this is only happening in Korea. Some governments are better at it, some are worse. I feel like they could all use more support though.
What we're hoping to do here is to open up a conversation about what it's like to be a single mother in different countries. So please let us know what it's like in your country in the comment section below, and hopefully we could learn from each other's experiences.
Also, we'd love to know things like, does the government help out single moms? What about single dads? Is there a stigma that exists? Like, for example, can you shame a deadbeat dad who doesn't pay child support? Or does that kind of thing not exist? Let us know in the comment section below.
So hopefully we can get this conversation going and see some changes. See you all in next week's TLDR.